My name is Claire Bennett. I was 27 when Mason Cole taught me that love can sound a lot like a subscription renewal if you ignore the warning signs long enough. Mason was 25. Charming, in that unfinished, restless way that made people want to help him before he ever asked. He had soft, brown eyes, a camera-ready smile, and a gift for making failure sound temporary. His podcast would take off soon. His fitness page was building momentum. His online coaching brand was almost there. Almost. That word cost me more money than I like admitting. We had been together for 2.5 years. We did not live together. He had his small apartment across town. I had mine. Cleaner. Quieter. Paid for on time. But for the last year, I had been carrying the parts of his life, he said, were temporary setbacks. 2 credit cards in my name. With him, as an authorized user. His phone bill. His car insurance. His gym membership. His music streaming. His video editing software. Groceries when his brand budget got tight. A few rent transfers when he swore a sponsor payment was delayed. Every month, it came to around $1,800. That did not include dinners, gifts, emergency cash, or the little expenses he dressed up as investments in his future. Then there was Vanessa Reed. Vanessa was 26. Mason's ex-girlfriend from college. Though he always rushed to correct me whenever I said ex. Ancient history, he would say. She's family now. Family who sent heart eye emojis under every shirtless gym photo. Family who texted him, "Good morning," before I did. Family who somehow always needed him when we had plans. I told myself I was being insecure. I told myself mature women did not compete with ghosts from college. I told myself trust was supposed to feel uncomfortable sometimes. Then, 3 weeks before everything exploded, Mason texted me while I was sitting at my desk between 2 client calls. "Hey babe. Vanessa's roommate bailed. And she offered me the extra room for cheap. I think I need this. I need space to focus on myself and my brand without distractions. No contact for a month? Okay, we're still together. Obviously. I just need to reset. Love you." I read it once, then again, then a 3rd time. Slower. Because my brain refused to believe the arrangement hidden inside those gentle words. He was moving in with his ex-girlfriend. He was calling me a distraction. He wanted no contact. And somehow, underneath all of that, I was still supposed to keep paying. For 5 full minutes. I stared at my phone, while the office around me blurred into keyboard clicks and distant laughter. My first instinct was to call him. Ask why. Demand answers. Beg him not to make me feel stupid. But something colder and cleaner rose in me instead. I typed 1 word. Understood. Then I opened my banking app. The first card had a $7,000 limit. Nearly maxed. The second had a $5,000 limit. Also, nearly maxed. Protein powder. Designer sneakers. Coffee shops. Meal delivery. Camera lights. Clothes he called. Content wardrobe. I removed him as an authorized user. Then I logged into the phone account and separated his line. Car insurance came next. Gym membership canceled. Streaming passwords changed. Editing software subscription ended. Shopping profile deleted. Every little doorway he had into my wallet, I closed. It took less than an hour to dismantle what had taken him a year to normalize. When I was done, I blocked his number. Mason wanted a month of silence, so I gave him silence. 3 days. That was how long Mason lasted, before the silence became unbearable. I was making coffee before work, when my phone vibrated with a number I didn't recognize. I ignored it. Then another, and another. By lunch, I had 6 missed calls from different numbers. The first voicemail came from his friend. "Brittany. Claire. What did you do?" Mason's freaking out. His card stopped working at a sporting goods store. He says there has to be some mistake. Call him. I deleted it. The second voicemail came from his mother. Carol. Hi. Sweetheart. Mason says there's some issue with his accounts. He's very upset. Could you call him when you get a chance? Deleted. The third voicemail made me stop walking. It was Mason, using Vanessa's phone. Claire. What the hell? My card got declined in front of people. Do you know how humiliating that was? You can't just cut me off without warning. This is financial abuse. I laughed out loud in the middle of the parking garage. Financial abuse. That was an impressive accusation, coming from a man who had voluntarily moved into another woman's apartment while expecting me to continue funding his life. The calls continued. I ignored everyone. After all, he had specifically requested no contact. I was respecting his boundaries. That evening, another voicemail arrived. This one sounded different. Less angry. More desperate. Claire. Please. His voice cracked. My insurance got cancelled. I got pulled over and got a ticket because I couldn't show proof of coverage. It's $450. A pause. I can't afford that right now. Another pause. Vanessa saw my card get declined at the grocery store. I had to pretend I grabbed the wrong card. His breathing sounded shaky. Please turn everything back on. Just temporarily. I'll pay you back. I swear. The message ended. I stared at the screen. Not because I felt guilty, because for the first time, I realized Mason had never expected consequences. In his mind, I was permanent. Like electricity. Like running water. Like something that simply existed. He never imagined I might stop. The next week became strangely peaceful. Without his constant financial emergencies, my account balance stopped collapsing every few days. I slept better. I stopped checking my phone for drama. I started remembering what life felt like before every decision revolved around whether Mason needed rescuing. Then came the confrontation. Exactly 2 weeks after his move. Saturday afternoon. Rain tapped softly against my apartment windows while I folded laundry. The doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone. When I opened the door, my stomach immediately tightened. Mason stood there. Vanessa beside him. Mason looked rough. His expensive grooming routine had apparently disappeared with my money. His hair needed trimming. His clothes looked wrinkled. Dark circles sat beneath his eyes. Vanessa looked uncomfortable. Like someone realizing they had accidentally joined the wrong team. Claire. Mason said, we need to talk. I folded my arms. You asked for a month of no contact. His jaw tightened. You know that's not what I meant. Really? Yes. No. Mason. I think it's exactly what you meant. Vanessa shifted awkwardly. Mason. Maybe we should. No. He stepped forward. You sabotaged me. I blinked. Sabotaged you. You cut everything off. You mean my accounts? You know what I mean. I almost smiled. No. Explain it. His face reddened. The cards? The insurance? The phone? Those belonged to me. You knew I depended on them. There it was. Not appreciation. Not accountability. Entitlement. The assumption that dependence created obligation. Vanessa finally spoke. Honestly? Claire. Maybe the timing was harsh. I looked directly at her. The timing. She swallowed. Well, Mason was relying on that support. While living with you. Neither answered. Interesting. Very interesting. I turned back toward Mason. So let me make sure I understand. He crossed his arms. Fine. You moved into your ex-girlfriend's apartment. She's my friend. You told me not to contact you for a month. You know why? You called me a distraction. His silence answered for him. And somehow I'm still supposed to pay your bills. Vanessa looked away. Mason clenched his jaw. It's not that simple. It is exactly that simple. His voice rose. You're destroying my life. No. I shook my head. You're experiencing your life. The words hit harder than I intended. For a moment, nobody spoke. Then Vanessa quietly asked something that changed the entire atmosphere. Mason. How much was Claire actually paying? His eyes widened. Vanessa. How much? His hesitation lasted too long. Far too long. I answered for him. About $1,800 a month. Vanessa stared. What? Phone. Insurance. Credit cards. Memberships. Rent help. Random transfers. Mason. It wasn't always that much. Her face drained of color. You told me your business was covering your expenses? It was going to. That isn't what I asked. Mason looked trapped, and for the first time, I saw Vanessa, seeing him clearly. Not the confident entrepreneur. Not the misunderstood creator. Just a man whose lifestyle depended on somebody else paying for it. Mason. She whispered. Were you actually broke? His silence was answer enough. The rain outside suddenly seemed louder. Vanessa looked like someone discovering the floor beneath her feet wasn't real. Then Mason snapped. This isn't the point. No. I said calmly. It absolutely is. He pointed at me. You've ruined my reputation. Where? My followers are asking questions. How many followers do you have now? His expression darkened. I already knew. Just over 3,000. Not enough to support the life he pretended to live. Not enough to justify $1,800 a month from me. Not enough to explain why he believed he deserved it. Vanessa looked between us. Then something dawned on her. A horrible realization. Mason. He looked at her. What? You told me Claire was controlling. His face froze. You said she monitored your spending. I raised an eyebrow. Interesting. Very interesting. Vanessa continued. You said she didn't support your dreams. Now I laughed. Actually laughed. Because every word was absurd. And judging by Vanessa's expression, she was beginning to realize it too. The cracks were finally showing. And once they started, they were spreading fast. For several seconds, nobody spoke. The tension hanging between us felt thick enough to touch. Vanessa looked from Mason to me, and back again. The version of him she had believed in was visibly collapsing. Mason, she said quietly. Is that true? He immediately became defensive. You're twisting things. No, I said. I'm clarifying them. His eyes flashed toward me. Claire. Stop. Stop what? Trying to make me look bad. The irony was almost impressive. I wasn't making him look like anything. I was simply refusing to hide reality anymore. Vanessa folded her arms. How much debt are you actually in? That's personal. How much? Mason. How much? His silence stretched. Then finally, around 12,000. Vanessa's eyes widened. 12,000. He looked away. I watched realization strike her in waves. The unpaid bills. The constant stress. The grocery store incident. The strange excuses. The fact that he always seemed to be waiting for money to arrive. It all suddenly made sense. Mason. She whispered. You told me you had savings. I did. When? A while ago. A while ago isn't now. He ran a hand through his hair. This isn't helping. No. Vanessa replied. It really isn't. I realized something then. Vanessa had expected a roommate, maybe even a second chance romance. What she got instead was a full-time financial emergency. Mason suddenly pointed at me. This is exactly what she does. What? She humiliates people. I stared at him. By paying your bills. You know what I mean. No. I genuinely didn't. His entire argument depended on pretending my support had been an obligation instead of a gift. The truth was becoming impossible for him to avoid. And he hated it. You know what? He snapped. Forget it. Good idea. His eyes narrowed. You think you're better than me now? No. Then what? I took a slow breath. I think I finally stopped lying to myself. That landed, because it was true. For over a year, I had convinced myself that support was love. That sacrifice was loyalty. That if I just helped a little longer, gave a little more, believed a little harder, eventually, things would improve. But nothing improved. The expenses grew. The excuses evolved. The promises got bigger. Only the results stayed the same. Mason's voice lowered. You're really doing this. I already did. You're throwing away 2.5 years. No. I met his eyes. You did that when you moved into Vanessa's apartment and asked me not to exist for a month. The words hit their target. His face tightened. For the first time since arriving, he looked genuinely ashamed. Just for a second. Then it vanished, replaced by anger. Come on. Vanessa. He turned toward the stairs, relieving. Vanessa didn't move immediately. Instead, she looked at me. I didn't know. I believe you. I thought he was independent. I know. Her expression softened. Then she nodded once, and followed him out. The moment the door closed, I leaned against it, and released a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. I should have felt victorious. Instead, I felt exhausted. Like someone who had finally put down a weight they'd carried so long, they forgot what standing upright felt like. But the real chaos started 3 days later. Mason launched his social media campaign. A dramatic video appeared on his page. The thumbnail showed him looking devastated. The caption read, "Speaking out about financial abuse." A mutual friend sent me the link, against my better judgment. I watched it. Mason sat in front of a ring light, wearing a carefully chosen expression of heartbreak. Sometimes, he began, people use money as a weapon. Sometimes they support you only so they can control you. I almost choked on my coffee. The comments, however, it were even better. At first, a few people expressed sympathy. Then, questions started appearing. Wait, didn't you move in with your ex? Didn't your girlfriend pay your bills? How is ending her own subscriptions abuse? Bro, get a job. My favorite comment came from someone who wrote, "So, you're saying your ex stopped paying for your life, and now you're mad?" Within hours, the entire narrative collapsed. The comment section turned brutal. Mason deleted the video before midnight. Unfortunately for him, screenshots live forever. Over the next week, things deteriorated rapidly. Vanessa started contacting mutual friends. Not publicly, privately, quietly, asking questions, comparing stories, looking for truth. And truth, once people start searching for it, has a nasty habit of appearing. Then one evening, I received a direct message from Vanessa. "Can we talk?" I stared at it for several moments, then replied, "About what?" Her answer came immediately. "You were right." That wasn't the response I expected. 5 minutes later she called. I answered. Vanessa sounded exhausted, the kind of exhausted that comes from learning something painful. He lied, she said. About what? A bitter laugh escaped her. Apparently everything. I remained silent. She continued. He told me he could pay half the rent. I assumed. He hasn't paid $1. I closed my eyes. There it was. The inevitable collision with reality. He keeps saying sponsorship money is coming. Has it? No. What about his coaching business? He's had 2 clients. Total. Yes. I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. Vanessa Sahil. He eats my groceries. I said nothing. He uses my car. Silence. He borrowed money. More silence. Claire. Yes. How did you put up with this for so long? That question hurt more than she realized. Because I had asked myself the same thing. Every day. For weeks. I loved him. The answer came quietly. Simple. Honest. Vanessa didn't speak for a moment. Then she whispered, I think he thought I was going to replace you. I wasn't surprised. Neither was she. The fantasy had probably seemed perfect. Move in with Vanessa. Keep Claire paying the bills. Maintain both sources of support. Never grow up. Never change. Never face consequences. Instead, everything unraveled. And it was only getting worse. Because the next person to discover the truth wasn't Vanessa. It was Carol, Mason's mother, and unlike Vanessa, Carol had absolutely no patience left. Carol called me on a Thursday evening. I almost didn't answer, but something told me this conversation would be different from the others. I was right. The moment I picked up, her voice sounded tired. Not angry, not defensive. Tired. Claire. Hi. Carol. A long pause followed. Then she sighed. I owe you an apology. I sat down at my kitchen table. That was the last thing I expected to hear. For what? For believing Mason. Silence stretched between us. I didn't know. Her voice cracked slightly. I genuinely didn't know. Know what? How much you were doing. I closed my eyes. Apparently the truth was finally making its rounds. He told us his business was growing. I know. He said sponsorships were paying well. I know. He said he was independent. Another pause. Then, Carol laughed bitterly. Independent. The word sounded ridiculous coming from her. He's 25 years old and can't pay his own phone bill. Neither of us spoke for a few seconds. Then she asked quietly, how much was it really? I debated softening the number, then decided against it. About $1,800 a month. Her sharp intake of breath came through the speaker. Every month. Yes. Oh my God. I said nothing, because there wasn't much left to say. The facts were ugly enough, she continued. And the credit cards? Nearly 12,000. Another silence. Then, Claire. Yes. You should have left sooner. The statement surprised me. Maybe because it was true. Maybe because hearing it from his mother felt strange. I know. You deserved better than this. For a moment, emotion tightened my throat. Not because of Mason. Because validation is powerful when it finally arrives. Especially after spending years questioning yourself. Carol eventually sighed again. He's coming home. What? He doesn't know yet. I blinked. What do you mean? He's moving back into my house. That caught my attention. Vanessa kicked him out. Almost. Apparently the situation had become catastrophic. Vanessa had discovered additional lies. Not just about money. About promises. About future plans. About how serious his online business actually was. Each revelation made things worse. He's behind on everything. Carol said. He told me he was one sponsorship away from success. Was he? No. A bitter laugh escaped her. Turns out he's one paycheck away from being homeless. I felt no satisfaction hearing that. Only relief that it wasn't my responsibility anymore. Before hanging up, Carol said something that stayed with me. Love should never cost you your peace. Then she ended the call. For the first time in months, I slept peacefully. Unfortunately, Mason was nowhere near finished. Exactly 1 month after sending his original message, a text arrived from an unfamiliar number. Hey. I knew immediately. I ignored it. Another arrived. Claire. It's me. Still ignored. Then came the third. The one that made me laugh. The month is up. Can we talk? The month is up. As if he had completed some spiritual retreat. As if moving into another woman's apartment and imploding his own life had been a growth exercise. I put the phone down. An hour later, another message appeared. I've reflected a lot. No response. Another. I miss us. Still nothing. Then, Vanessa and I aren't working out. There it was. The real reason. Not love. Not reflection. Not regret. Failure. His backup plan had failed. I finally replied. One sentence. What exactly are you hoping happens here? The answer came immediately. Can we meet? No. Please. No. I made mistakes. Yes. That's why I want another chance. No. A minute later. I still love you. I stared at the message. Then, typed, the truth. No. Mason, you love being taken care of. Blocked. The next morning, he escalated. By lunch? My receptionist called upstairs. Claire. Yes. There's a man in the lobby asking for you. My stomach dropped. Mason. How did you know? Of course. I stood and walked toward the elevators. When I reached the lobby, chaos greeted me. Mason stood near the front desk. Disheveled. Frustrated. Desperate. Several employees watched openly. He spotted me immediately. Claire. I stopped several feet away. What are you doing here? We need to talk. No. You won't answer your phone. Correct. Please. His voice cracked, and for a brief moment I saw a genuine panic, not because he loved me, because everything else was gone. Vanessa. Gone. The apartment. Gone. The fantasy career. Collapsing. The financial support. Gone. Reality had finally caught him. And reality was winning. Claire. He said quietly, I don't have anywhere to go. I almost responded, then remembered the text. The apartment. The no contact month. The entitlement. The lies? No. His face fell. That's it. Yes. You'd really leave me like this? The question stunned me. Because somehow he still believed I owed him rescue? Security arrived before I could answer. A manager had already called them. One guard stepped forward. Sir. You need to leave. Mason looked horrified. I'm talking to my girlfriend. Ex-girlfriend. I corrected. His expression shattered. The guard repeated himself. Sir. Mason looked at me one final time. Then anger replaced desperation. You ruined my life. The lobby went silent. I met his Khasa. No. I said it calmly. Firmly. Finally. You ruined your life. Security escorted him outside. The glass doors closed behind him, and just like that, 2.5 years ended. Not with a dramatic breakup, not with screaming, not with revenge. With a simple truth nobody could argue with anymore. I stopped saving a man who refused to save himself. The strange thing about endings is that they rarely feel dramatic when they finally arrive. You expect fireworks. You expect some final confrontation that ties everything together. Instead, life usually moves on while you're still waiting for a conclusion. 2 weeks after the incident at my office, I was sitting in a climbing gym cafe when my phone buzzed. A message from Vanessa. He's gone. I stared at the text. Then replied, gone. Where? His mom picked him up. That was all. No explanation. No details. Just a simple confirmation that the chapter was finally closing. A few minutes later, another message appeared. Honestly? Claire, you got lucky. I almost laughed. Lucky wasn't exactly the word I would have chosen for losing over $30,000 in 2.5 years of my life. Still, I understood what she meant. I escaped. Eventually. Many people never do. Over the following month, pieces of Mason's new reality reached me through mutual friends. None of it was surprising. Carol had moved him back into his childhood bedroom. Apparently, she established rules within the first 24 hours. Get a job. Pay rent. Contribute. No exceptions. No excuses. No influencer plans. No business pitches. No promises about future success. Just work. For the first time in years. Mason had no one willing to bankroll his dreams. His mother found him a receptionist position at a medical clinic owned by one of her friends. Regular hours. Regular pay. Regular responsibilities. According to a mutual acquaintance, he hated it immediately. The schedule. The accountability. The fact that supervisors expected results instead of potential. Most of all, he hated earning money slowly. Because real life doesn't pay in promises. Meanwhile, another problem surfaced. One I had quietly suspected for months. The credit cards. When I reviewed the statements more carefully, patterns started appearing. Payments made from one card, then another. Balances shifting in circles. Minimum payments covering minimum payments. Artificial activity designed to keep everything afloat. The deeper I dug, the worse it looked. Eventually, I contacted the bank. I explained everything. Provided documentation. Submitted years of records. The investigation that followed wasn't my revenge. It was self-protection. The bank's fraud department became extremely interested, especially after discovering how many transactions had been structured to create false payment activity. When they asked if I wanted to pursue legal action, I declined. I didn't want revenge. I wanted distance. And distance, I learned, it was worth more than money. Around that same time, Mason's online career finally collapsed. The signs had been there for months. Followers dropping, engagement shrinking, sponsors disappearing. But now the decline accelerated. One particular video became the final disaster. He posted a motivational morning routine. The problem, halfway through filming, Carol could be heard in the background. Mason. You're going to be late for work again. The internet showed no mercy. Comments exploded. Wait. You live with your mom. Thought you were a CEO. Bro got grounded at 25. The video disappeared within hours. His audience continued disappearing with it. Then his entire account vanished. 3,000 followers. Gone. Years of pretending. Gone. The personal brand he had prioritized over everything else. Gone. One evening, while scrolling through social media, I noticed a new profile. Private. 47 followers. No verified badge. No professional photography. Just ordinary posts. Ordinary life. Ordinary reality. Mason. For some reason, seeing that account affected me more than everything else. Not because I missed him, because it represented something sad. Not failure. Truth. The truth of who he had always been underneath the performance. A man who desperately wanted extraordinary rewards without accepting ordinary responsibilities. I closed the page and never looked again. Around the same time, something unexpected happened. I met someone. Hanam of us, Daniel Hart, 30 years old, mechanical engineer, calm, steady, funny in a quiet way. We met at the climbing gym after repeatedly ending up on neighboring routes. The first thing I noticed was how easy conversation felt. No grande ambition, no dramatic stories, no endless discussions about future success. Just honesty, refreshing honesty. Our first date lasted 4 hours. Not because either of us was trying to impress the other, because we genuinely enjoyed talking. At one point, he asked about past relationships. I gave him the short version. His response made me laugh. You weren't his girlfriend. What was I then? Aventure capitalist. I nearly spit out my drink. The more I thought about it, the funnier it became. Because he wasn't entirely wrong. For years I had invested in potential, expected, future returns. Ignored warning signs. Funded a project. Not a partnership. Daniel paid for his half. Expected me to pay for mine. And somehow, that felt more romantic than anything Mason had ever done. 3 months after the breakup, one final message arrived. New number. Unknown contact. A long paragraph. I knew who it was before reading it. Mason. According to him, he had changed. He had grown. He understood his mistakes. He missed our connection. He forgave me for overreacting. Forgave me? I laughed so hard, I nearly dropped my phone. After a minute, I replied, Who is this? The response came instantly. Claire. Stop. You know it's me. Sorry. I don't have this number saved. It's Mason. Please don't do this. I stared at the screen, then typed my final message. No. Mason. You don't miss me. You miss what I provided. There's a difference. Please don't contact me again. A minute later came his last reply. I really did love you. Maybe not. At that point, it didn't matter. I blocked the number. And that was the end. Not because Mason finally learned his lesson. Not because karma perfectly balanced every account. Not because life suddenly became fair. It ended because I finally learned mine. Love is generosity. But generosity without boundaries becomes self-destruction. Support is healthy. Sponsorship is not. Trust is important. But trust without accountability is blindness. I lost money. I lost time. I lost pieces of myself that took months to rebuild. But I gained something far more valuable. Self-respect. Today, in the $1,800 I used to spend every month funding someone else's life stays in my account. My debt is shrinking. My credit score is rising. My future feels peaceful. Daniel and I are planning a trip together. We each pay our own way. Like adults. Like partners. Like equals. And every now and then, when I think back to the text that started everything, I need space. No contact for a month. I smile. Because Mason got exactly what he asked for. Space. The only difference is that once he left, I discovered how wonderful my life felt without him in it.